Over the last 100 years, minimum wage continues to be a headline topic for many people across our state. And with a recent hike, locals push for a larger increase, while others are concerned for Minnesota's economy and small businesses. I'm Rena Kamal. Our Issues Twin Cities starts now.
Sometimes I kind of hopeful, things will get better.
For Ali, it's been the same route and same low-wage job for years.
Sometimes people like ask me like how much do you get paid? When I said $7.25 or $8, like, oh, do you have a legal status to be here? Why are you working like $7.25 or $8 an hour?
Originally from Somalia, Ali came to America for a better opportunity.
I was like thinking like if you work here, they'll pay you what you deserve, and you just have one job and rest of your day just to do something fun, social life or be socialized with your family or friends, When you in like Kenya or like back home where these people come from, they only work 8 hours and then the rest of the day you have free, Yeah. But here like working 24/7,
Ali has been working minimum wage jobs for over 8 years.
Working minimum wage, like not only me, sometimes I have to support I have family members who is still in back home, and I have to send money sometimes. And then I have to take care of my bills and everything, and it wasn't enough for me.
And you were saying sometimes it feels like you're just working for free?
Yeah, that's what I think, because I know, the company I'm working for, they make millions of dollars, and then they afford to pay me more that I deserve, that they don't.
And how has that been for you, that minimum wage has slightly increased over the years?
That's like nothing. You're not like earning anything. Like, working minimum wage like $6 or $7.25 or even $8, it's like nothing, because when you see your paycheck, it's like less than $400 2 weeks.
In 1913, Minnesota was one of the first dozen states to pass minimum wage laws and workplace standards for women and children, but it wasn't implemented until 60 years later. In 1973, Democratic State Representative Ray Farsi established the first ever statewide minimum wage in Minnesota at $1.80 an hour. It went up from there, $3.85 an hour in 1983, $4.25 in 1991, $5.15 an hour in 1998, $6.15 in 2005, and just a couple years ago in 2013, minimum wage was at $7.25. Today, Minnesota holds the throne for the highest minimum wage in the Midwest at $9 an hour. By 2016, Minnesota's minimum wage will increase to $9.50. The fight for 15 ignited in Seattle in 2014, sweeping the nation to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour. Minnesota joined the movement shortly after. Kip and Ginger are the campaign managers for Minnesota 15 Now. How did it begin here in Minneapolis?
It really began in a break room at Delta Airlines, where a number of the lower paid workers were reading about the victory in Seattle for $15 an hour minimum wage. And I said that I thought that possibly could happen at the airport, that the Metropolitan Airport Commission had the ability to pass an ordinance like that. And they all said, how do we get that going? And it kind of took off from there with petitions, rallies, demonstrations, mass attendance.
I believe that we will win.
Protesters gather from all over the metro to voice their opinions.
15 would press it on and make it a better standard for people, and it would give the understanding to all working Americans that we're worth $15 an hour. How much are your employees worth to you?
Why is 15 important? Because 8 is not paying the bills, and rent has to be on time. You want my rent on time? Start paying me more.
Shoot,
Start paying me more.
I work at a non-profit organization. I work with Knox. Shoot, I got my own crib, and it's not helping me pay enough. And I got to pay for food in my house, got to keep extra money in my pocket. So $15 an hour, that's good.
With almost a decade of working minimum wage, Ali recently joined the campaign. Why did you join the movement?
Because I said this is my life, you know. This is me, and who the fighting is for me. So I have to be there and add my voice.
Yeah.
So that's why I realized this is my time. I have to step up and come on board, you know.
So what's the ultimate goal of Fight for 15?
We want to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, but I think through the grassroots mobilization and the sort of networks that we're working with and the coalitions that we're trying to build, I think we hope to win a lot more, or take the types of structures that we build through this campaign to be able to advocate for a lot of other things that working people need, you know? It's not just about a $15 minimum wage, I think. That's our initial, you know, that's our demand, that's what workers are fighting for. But I think this is about fighting that race to the bottom, as Kip often talks about. The idea that, you know, we're dealing with a lot of other things that working people face, you know, in terms of advocacy in their communities, in terms of having safety on the job, union representation, you know, safe schools, better funding for schools. You know, there's a lot of other stuff that sort of interferes with your day-to-day life as a sort of working person or in a low-income community. And I think wages are just, this is the most concrete way that the City Council in Minneapolis could deal with racial and economic inequality. And so I think to win this is a way to also point toward more aspirational victories. You know, we can win a whole lot more beyond this if we get organized and fight for at least that starting point of 15.
Coming up on Our Issues Twin Cities, a closer look at the Fight for 15 and those who oppose the movement. Last December, Kip was fired from Delta after 26 years for leading the efforts to raise minimum wage at the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport.
We had been at the MAC meeting that day in October and had a little rally or demonstration after. And one of the news outlets for one of the unions in Minnesota interviewed me for probably 30 seconds, and they asked me whether I thought Delta workers would be interested in this. And I said, essentially, yes, they would, because there are a number of low-paid workers at Delta, and even the higher-paid workers understand that if the bottom doesn't come up, the top's going to come down. And I said that probably close to half of Delta ramp workers in the system were paid under $15 an hour. And Delta reacted very harshly to that and said that that kind of statement was disparaging to Delta.
So why now, after 26 years, did you feel the need to speak up?
I've always been very active. When we had a union, I was active in the union, and worker justice, worker democracy, improvement of working conditions, it's always been a kind of a core value for me. And what I saw more and more was my coworkers, both at some of the vendor companies and at Delta, kind of being driven under. And I didn't like that. So I felt a responsibility to speak out about it, not just for myself, but for others and for other young people coming up.
So many people all over the nation and even here in Minnesota have worked low-wage jobs for several years, some even their entire lives. How does that affect someone on a personal level?
If it feels like there's no way to really move up, if these are the jobs that are available, and I think it's a lot of what we're seeing in the US right now. When we talk about job growth, we're actually talking about in low-wage service sector jobs, and especially since 2008. And so for that to be the reality, and say to go to college and to come out of it with mounds of student debt, and then to see that all that's available to you is something at $7, $8, $9 an hour.
We're doing jobs that we're mopping up water spills. We're being janitors. We're having to clean the restroom because customers come in and they use those bathrooms. We're window hander-outers. We're cashiers. We're all part of this organization that needs $15 an hour no matter what position you are in.
Like Ali, his co-workers lead similar lives, working more than one job for stability.
Some of them work in three jobs. And now some of them literally come to the airport and one shift and then next shift and then that shift. And then just even cannot get a time to go home and take a shower and then just to go to the bathroom at the airport and change their clothes and just to go into next shift or next company, whatever.
Job to job to job.
Yes. And then sometimes I think, oh, what is this people thinking? They came here to this country to have opportunity, and to have a better life. But now they're having worst life ever.
Jared owns an in-home care company where many of his employees don't work for the paycheck, but rather to help others. What are your concerns as a small business owner if minimum wage does increase?
Obviously, we feel it's good business to pay as much as we can to our staff. That way we can hopefully attract the best possible caregivers for us. But sometimes when that is out of line with the budget, it makes it very difficult.
As a small business owner, he is concerned for the survival of his business if minimum wage increases. If minimum wage does increase, how will it affect your business?
The owners look at it as you pay your employees first, and you pay your vendors, if you will, second, and if whatever is left over, that's what you would consider your income. And I know that most small business owners that I know of, are not looking to see how much more they can put in their pockets. They're trying to see, how can I make my business viable? How can I make this continue and hopefully have something to pass on to my children?
America is built on small businesses. In Minnesota alone, small businesses employ over 1 million individuals. But minimum wage is $7.25 an hour for small employers who have gross sales under $500,000. If minimum wage does hike, do you think many small businesses in Minnesota will be in jeopardy?
I think it'll be definitely a period of adjustment. I think there are some that could possibly decide that it's not worth it and go away. Hopefully not. But it'll definitely have some hard choices that will have to be made, whether it be with staffing, whether it be with pricing increases, changing the model that you use. There's a lot of things that you can do. I think most small business owners want to stay in business, and so we'll figure out a way to make it, but it won't be easy, and it'll probably call for sacrifices all the way around.
Those who are opposed to raising minimum wage to $15 an hour are small businesses, are restaurants who say that they simply cannot afford to continue running their businesses with those kind of wages. What are your thoughts on that?
When we're advocating for a higher minimum wage for all workers, we're talking about restaurant workers all across the city of Minneapolis, not just the ones that might be making a decent amount of money at the very few sort of fancier restaurants that are in Minneapolis. It's about making sure that all workers are able to make a living, not just a few of them that might work in one restaurant or another that is making a decent amount of money.
A lot of small business owners, if you took what they take out of the business for their own wages, $15 an hour, maybe less, maybe more. So that they're not the problem. The problem is there's this massive transfer of wealth from and subsidies for Target, Walmart, airlines, etc. We want to take measures to make sure that small businesses, which are kind of the glue of communities,
and of America,
right, that they survive. And that means, maybe it means taking a look at having the biggest subsidizing the smaller.
As a small business owner, what do you say to those who want to raise minimum wage?
You can't social engineer that kind of change, because really what you're doing in that case is you're taking from one pile and putting it in another. You're not creating anything new, you're not making anything, you're not really making a change. It's just saying, well, it's going to go from one pocket to another pocket. And I don't think that you can legislate that. I think that oftentimes the market will speak and say, this is how much we can charge for this service, this product, and that has to fit, the wage has to fit into that model.
Up next on Our Issues Twin Cities, the good and the bad of raising minimum wage. Washington and Oregon have the nation's highest minimum wages at $9.47 and $9.25 per hour. 5 other states are at or just above $9 an hour. The minimum wage in California and Massachusetts will rise to $10 per hour in January. Concerns that many of our locals have for a larger increase in minimum wage are job cuts, high unemployment rates, and a hit to our economy.
I think it's definitely a concern. I think you'll be a whole lot more a whole lot more conscious of who you're hiring and making sure that you're making a good hire. You may not take a chance on someone who maybe has some issues or maybe is younger, things like that. You're going to look for that A-plus employee because they're going to cost more. You want to make sure that you're getting the best that you can get. So I think it will hurt some.
So essentially it's going to be harder to find a job.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. There's going to be more competition at that wage rate, and some might get locked out. We talk a lot about the younger workers, and that's probably going to be the case just because of lack of experience overall and job experience in general.
And what about the many mom and pop businesses that have been around for decades? I've talked to a lot of people who do own small businesses, and that's what's really been in the family for many, many years, decades. That's really what brings in the money for the family, and that's the big concern. When we raise minimum wage, we're going to have to cut jobs in order to survive.
This whole movement has to take place in a way that builds Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities, and does not destroy or cut across the ability of small businesses to exist. I mean, I think there's nobody in the citywide coalition that would not agree with that statement. So it's a discussion, and it's one that's actually pretty vibrant right now, and we think we'll be able to win a number of small business people to this perspective.
What are you doing to fight minimum wage from increasing?
It's not so much a fight for it increasing as let's be reasonable about this. Now, we've had to jump in Minnesota in just under 2 years of almost $2 an hour. A lot of businesses can't absorb that, some can. But it does have an effect on the business itself, it has an effect on the employees, and it has an effect on the clients and customers of that business. So nobody's going to be untouched by it. It's just a matter of people deciding what they can deal with.
And those fighting for a wage increase believe this is a fair solution. Why does this movement mean so much to you?
This is a very exciting political moment. I think it's a very exciting period of time, after a lot of what Kip described about what's been happening at the airport, say, with a couple of decades of workers sort of getting cut across again and again. I think it's really exciting to see people saying enough is enough.
I have a 17-year-old daughter, and I want her to be able to enter the labor market that's friendly and that can actually provide a decent living for her, and a labor market where she doesn't have to work 2 jobs, doesn't have to work jobs that have no real set schedule, etc. And because I really care about a lot of the people that I worked with at the airport, and I care about my city, my community.
And as the fight for 15 continues, the activists remain optimistic.
I will use my power to let my coworkers know what's going on, and we can use that power for the election time to our leaders. If they're not helping us, that means we're not going to vote for them, So that we have a power to change something.
What are you most hopeful for?
I think getting 15 passed as quickly as we can, along with these other issues around fair schedules, earned sick and safe time, methods for curbing wage theft. I think, getting more workers involved, getting more people moving, and seeing if we can get this passed as quickly as possible.
I think we have a really good chance of kind of transforming some of the wage structure in the Twin Cities area, and really having this be kind of a beacon, kind of like Seattle was. The Twin Cities could become a beacon for a really equitable economy and a fair economy. And to me, that's what makes things more safe, stable, better future.
If the campaign does pass and minimum wage is raised to $15 an hour, how will that change your life?
That will change my life completely, because earning 15 an hour will give me decent wages for my family, my life, and be able to be someone and just not thinking about how you're gonna pay your bills and support your family, making $8 an hour. That will give me more financially stable, to make $15 an hour. So I think that will help me more, not only me, thousands of coworkers,
And for others who are against minimum wage from increasing to $15 per hour, fear for the survival of their business. How are you preparing your small business if in fact minimum wage does increase and even increase to $15 an hour?
$15 an hour will be something very tough to deal with. We're going to have to really decide, what we can afford to do at that point. That would be almost double what it was 2 years ago. You can't, double that wage and not have an effect somewhere, and generally that's going to be in pricing. In our business, we can't double our price. We just can't do it. We would be out of business if we did that, because we would lose our clients. We can do some gradual increasing and make up for some of that. But I think $15 an hour for a lot of small businesses could be a death blow.
For now, minimum wage remains at $9 an hour, but will soon climb to $9.50 by 2016. And as the fight for 15 in Minnesota is underway, many expect changes, both positive and negative. Thank you for joining me this week on Our Issues Twin Cities. I'm Dana Kamal. See you next time.